I'm McKinney Smith. After going through a divorce, my sister passing away, experiencing narcissistic abuse, and some significant health scares, I realized through sharing my story that I wasn't alone in my suffering. Suffering, subjective distress generated by the experience of being out of balance. In a deep dive to holistically heal mind, body, and soul is where I discovered peace, clarity, and connection. It is impossible to be truly wise without some real life hardship, and we cannot develop post-traumatic wisdom without making it through, and most importantly, through it together. Social connection builds resilience, and resilience helps create post-traumatic wisdom, and that wisdom leads to hope. Hope for you and others witnessing and participating in your healing, and hope for your community. A healthy community is a healing community, and a healing community is full of hope because it has seen its own people weather, survive, and thrive. Jessica Robinson Grant is not only a mother and wife, but also a seasoned therapist with more than 10 years of experience. She's been a strong advocate for the mental well-being of the Black community, holding essential roles in both frontline services and management. Throughout her career, Jessica has worked as a youth justice manager and social worker, playing a crucial role in supporting the mental, emotional, and professional growth of Black youth. Motivated by a desire to address mental health disparities, she channeled her expertise into founding Soul Care Christian Counseling and Consulting. This clinical practice focuses on providing mental health services to the Black community, integrating faith and mental well-being. Please welcome to the show, Jessica Robinson Grant.
Hi, everyone. So excited to be here. Thanks for having me, McKinney.
Thank you for agreeing to come on and share your story and your expertise with us. Mm-hmm. I am always excited to have people on the podcast that I have been connected to for years and inspired by their journey and watched their evolution and growth. And because a huge part of this show is about our evolution and our growth. Yeah. And I get excited because I get to know you guys on a deeper level. It's like, yeah, you know, you see people, you see them at events, you see them on social, but these conversations allow me to feel a deeper connection to you guys. So I am grateful that you said yes. So thank you for sharing space with me.
Absolutely. Thank you. I love your platform. I just love you as a person. Like you said, we've just been kind of seeing each other at events, saying hi in each other's DMs, things like that. So I'm excited. And don't be surprised if I ask you a question. The therapist in me will be like, wait, hold on. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So. Listen, I am all for it. This is a conversation. It's not one-sided. I feel like because of my, and I'm going to use the word obsession right now, with like healing and neuroscience and how the brain works and, you know, healing and traumatic wisdom and all these things, I am so open to these conversations. And I feel like the more that we are able to have these conversations openly and share our experiences, other people who may not feel like they have a voice to share or they have a support system, they can at least listen to these conversations and not feel so alone. And, you know, it helps them get started on their journey. So I am here for the questions, for the answers.
Awesome. Love it.
I also shared, like, I have for the past year been going to therapy every week. And my therapist is like, every week. Okay. Wow. When I say I'm obsessed right now.
I love that for you though. Cause like therapy every week is intense. That's almost like going to the gym every day. So it's like that's intense mental and emotional workout.
Absolutely. And so before we even get, all into where I want to go, like my obsession with healing, and I guess part of even why I rebranded the podcast from A Walk in My Stilettos to Heal Her, was because
Mhm.
I was so deep in my own healing journey. And I was
Mm,
like, I am tired of the pain. I am tired of the hurt. I'm
yeah,
tired of reliving the same traumatic experiences. I want to
yeah,
heal. And I know I
yeah,
can't rush the healing process, but I want as much knowledge and information and tools and
yeah,
resources. I want it all. Give it to me now,
yeah. Right now, right here,
right now.
every week. I totally hear you. Yeah, yeah.
So my therapist is like, yeah, you're the only person I see every week.
You know what? To be honest, like as therapists, we don't really want to see the people every week unless like you're in crisis. We're like, okay, we need to go through this, but it's like, come back in 2 weeks, process the information. But I think a lot of the times for people, it's hard to do every week because again, especially if you weren't doing it before and you come every week, it's like going to the gym every day. Like
Mhm,
I went to the gym yesterday. I did Pilates. I'm a Pilates girly. And I am sore. Like my
mhm,
back hurts, my arms hurt, everything hurts, right? And so going to therapy every week is literally like that soreness, that
mhm.
yeah. So I
It's
love that for
painful
me.
and hurts.
Yeah. But then it's so good.
Yes,
It's
yes.
good.
Yeah.
It's
I
good.
want to do the work. I don't want
Yeah.
to keep bleeding out my wounds on other people. I don't want
Yeah.
to keep unintentionally hurting my children. I don't want to,
Mhm.
be doing the work that I'm doing and not being an effective
Yeah.
leader. Like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like my obsession with it, as much as it hurts,
Yeah. It's good.
I am very much an action oriented person. So after every session, she's giving
Mm.
me like things that I need to do.
Yeah.
And like, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm doing
Yeah,
it.
I love it. That's amazing. I love that. I have so many questions, but I'm gonna let us get into the episode.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then if they come back up, then I'll ask again.
Yes. So please, okay, I want to focus on you right now. So I love to start the show really with like an icebreaker question to get more of an idea of who little Jessica was.
Yeah.
Because, in therapy, you talk about the inner child and all those
Mhm.
wonderful things. And I know that who we are today is definitely um, because of our
Yeah.
childhood experiences and who we were.
Yeah.
And I feel like, especially with our imagination and fantasy, as kids, we have these vivid imaginations of who and what
Mhm.
we want to be when we grow up. And
Mhm.
then unintentionally, our family, culture, society, all of these layers start to
Mhm.
impact us and tell us, be realistic, or you can't
Yeah.
do this, or,
Yeah.
they start to limit our beliefs.
Yeah.
So I would
Yeah.
love to know, who did Jessica want to be when she was a little girl, or what did Jessica want to do with her life when she was a little girl?
Oh, boy, Makini. So as far as I can remember, I always wanted to be a teacher. I think a lot of children wanted to be a teacher. But I wanted to be a teacher. And it's funny, when I was in school, I was always told that I talk too much. So, exceptional student, but talks too much. Except, but talks too much. And so, in some ways, I do see that my life turned out to be a teacher because I journey with people as a therapist. I teach in different areas of my life. I love teaching. Actually, my lifelong journey. The last profession I want to have before I guess die or retire. Let's say retire, not die. Is is I want to be a professor. I
Mm.
want to be a professor. I love teaching. I love gaining knowledge and sharing knowledge. So yeah, I wanted to be a teacher. Did I think I was gonna get there? I don't know, because my journey is filled with so much trauma and hurt. And it's funny because um, growing up, I was labeled as gifted, the really smart one, the golden child, and different things like that. But at the same time, there were so many obstacles sometimes for me going to school. Like I don't have memory of me doing like I think grade 3 and 4
Mm.
type of thing. Like I'm pretty sure I probably didn't do those grades, I believe. And so sometimes, and wow, as you said, sometimes people say things on the podcast that they never said before. Uh, sometimes there are things like I would say like educationally that I'm like, I don't remember learning this type of
Mm-hmm.
thing. Like I don't remember this area of my life. And that's mainly because, you know, we grew up in the Caribbean, so my mom didn't always have money for us to go to school. There's different things like that. So my journey in that area of who I wanted to be is interesting as a little girl because I grew up into this person who's like a therapist and community advocate and all that type of stuff. So yeah.
Okay, so there's so much there that I want to unpack.
Let's unpack it.
Let's unpack it.
Let's unpack it.
Okay, so you talked about like at school being
Mhm.
smart, but you know, the teacher writing on your part card or whatever, like that you talk too much or too
Yeah.
talkative or any of those things.
Yeah.
Can we talk about how those labels and reading that as a kid or seeing that often as a kid, what that can actually do to us and how that can limit us growing up? Because I'm thinking now, okay, well, you being talkative as a kid, on a positive note, you are expressing yourself. You are
Yeah.
using your voice. You are
Yeah.
speaking up. You are communicating. You are doing
Yeah.
all these healthy things, but it's being labeled as a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then now we see people who don't use their voice or feel like they can't speak up or like,
Yeah.
can we unpack
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, no, for sure. So it's funny because like I'm having vivid memories of my report card. And my mom said, you need to stop talking in class. She said it in a Jamaican way, but I know our podcast is diverse. So I'm aiming to say it not in
Yeah.
dialect, but in full on English. But you need to like stop talking, pay attention, different things like that. And it's so funny because I remember how all of these labels and these traumatic experiences, how they silenced me. Like I wouldn't use my voice. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't use my voice. And I had to get to a place where I was using my voice, and hence my Instagram name, I am She Speaks Truth.
Mm,
I don't know if I'll ever change that because that is just such a evolution of who I am. And like this is a big part of who I am, speaking truth in an edifying way where I'm teaching and sharing with individuals. But it definitely was a period of life or time where it just silenced me. Like I can remember being a child and like I was still talkative, but I was still silenced. I don't know
mhm,
if that made sense type of thing.
mhm.
But yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I get it. Where it's like you're still speaking, you're still communicating, but you may not necessarily be saying, I guess, how you're feeling or things from,
exactly.
you know, emotional depth
Yeah.
or things like that.
Yeah, yeah. There was no emotional depth. There was no,
Mm.
I mean, let me change that. There was no validation or recognition of
Mm.
the emotional depth, right? I was very much, my mom tells me this story all the time, but it's very interesting of, you know, we grew up in a very abusive space. Like my brother's dad was very abusive and just a lot of domestic abuse, a lot of things like that. And I guess my mom was having a really hard time. And I don't remember, I have no memory of this. And I turned to her and she was crying and I wiped her tears and I said, Mommy, it won't always be like this type of
Mm.
thing. Like it's gonna get better. And I was like, how did I have that type of emotional intelligence
Mhm.
as a child to be able to wipe my mother's tears to be like, you know, it's not always going to be like this, mommy, like it's going to get better. And I feel like that has been I've had this tenacity, I would say, or this capacity rather to hold space for people from a
Mhm.
young age that had its advantages and disadvantages because there was the aspect of parentification, but you
Mhm.
know, that's that. Um, I, I had the capacity to hold space from such a young age, but no one was really holding space.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Wow. Whew. So, okay. So our listeners of the podcast know that we're going to laugh and cry. So,
Yes.
because
Listen, the
I'm
tears
highly
are coming
emotional.
and I'm like, oh God, oh God.
Listen, the empath in me, you're talking, and I'm like, okay, don't cry. And then my chest
Yeah,
started to hurt, and I'm like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
swallow the spit.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah,
I I am sorry that you had that experience as a child growing up in an abusive household. And I like many of the women that come on this show, many of the women that I'm connected to as friends, we have had traumatic childhood experiences.
yeah.
And looking at who we've become today, you wouldn't know that unless we told you that. You know what I mean? Like,
It's actually wild.
right? Right? Like, I was listening to I was listening to the Jay Shetty podcast this morning as I was driving my
Mhm,
son to school, and Tiffany Haddish was on there, and she's talking about her childhood. And,
mhm.
love her or hate her, but she's very transparent about her
Yeah,
childhood experiences, about her healing journey, about her strengths and weaknesses.
yeah.
And he was talking about studying women, studying successful women. And
Mm,
every single successful woman that she has studied, that she knows, that she's connected to, that she has seen, has experienced abuse in some form,
yeah,
mental, emotional, physical, spiritual,
yeah,
what have you.
yeah, yeah,
But they have used that to push through, to be resilient, and to be successful because they're like, I'm not going to let that stop me.
yeah, 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 yeah. It's interesting because in, I guess, in the therapeutic world, you would call that post-traumatic growth,
Mm-hmm.
right? So being able to know or to recognize and to live out that there is life after trauma.
Mm-hmm.
But it's what I think the hard part is that everyone doesn't get there,
Yeah.
and that there are so many people who are still stuck in that cycle of trauma, like we are talking about before the podcast began, and not doing that healing work, right? Not being intentional. And the people who are successful, but they didn't work through their stuff. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And so it shows up in their leadership, it shows up in their marriage, it shows up in their parenting, or different things like that. So I think the important thing is not only recognizing or acknowledging or being resilient, but having healthy resilience,
Yes.
right? How are we now working from that place? Like we know Tupac, the roses that grew from concrete, right?
Mhm.
How do we become roses that grow from concrete? We don't just stick in that concrete, but also that we transplant from that concrete and go into good soil, right?
Yes.
And being able to nurture and to water and to develop and things like that. So I think that's a very important aspect of recognizing the traumatic experiences that we've gone through, but being able to grow from them and grow through them.
Mm-hmm. There
Yeah.
was so much that you said there. And I'm like, with my ADHD brain, I'm like, okay, what part okay, where do I start? um, okay, one, when the last part of what you said about being able to transplant from there and grow
Yeah.
from there.
Yeah.
So again, Tiffany Haddish this morning when she was talking about her story, she still lives in the neighborhood that she grew up in. She believes like
Wow.
with all the money that she's made, all the multiple properties that she has and the community work that she's doing, she says she feels safe there. So she wants to stay there and create change there rather than leave that environment. And
Okay.
to each their own, right? But I know for myself personally, in order for me to heal, I cannot heal in the environments that hurt me. So I need to remove myself from those environments. I need to also remove anything in that environment that triggers the
Yeah.
memory of those experiences for
Yeah.
me. That's
Yeah.
what's worked for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So from a therapist perspective, like
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm listening to you talk about,
Man, I would have been like, Miss Haddish, like, let's talk about let's unpack that. Let's dig deeper. Because sometimes trauma has a way of creating a false sense of safety, right? What
Mhm.
we call safety may be a comfort zone or maladaptive behaviors,
Mhm.
right? As for me, I would have to head out because you're seeing the same things, you're smelling the same things. So how do I share this story? Okay, I'm gonna share this in the most concealed way, just in case, you know. So I visited Jamaica, I think when was it? 2013, somewhere around there, I don't remember. And I was at a particular family member's house, and it was a very abusive space, very. And Bikini, I I slept over and I woke up and I was like, I need to get out of here. I need to get out of here. Like the
Mm,
same smells from when I was 5 years old. The pillow smelled the same. Like
mm,
and I was like, I have got to, like my body was just like, get me out of here
mhm.
immediately.
Your
And
nervous
that's how,
system was screaming.
man, I was like, I want to go. And so my uncle, his soul rest in peace, he was supposed to take me to my dad's house and the same night because it was supposed to be a day trip, you know. It was not supposed to be a sleepover day because I did not want to sleep over. And so I'm there, and my uncle comes home late, so he doesn't get to take me, and I have to sleep over. And I was like, but so saying all that to say, that was such a traumatic space for me. And
Mhm.
I remember calling my mom. I was like, "Mommy, the pillow them smell the same." Like I was
Mm.
like, "Get me out of here." So I don't know how she is still living in the same space, the same environment. As her therapist, if I was her therapist, I know she's been to therapy, I would actually challenge her and dig
Mhm.
deeper. Like, what does safety look like for you? Define safety, kind of
Mhm.
thing. And how is this, and how do you define healing? Like, oh, I have so many questions.
Yeah,
So many
listen,
questions.
I'm listening
So
to the
many.
episode and I'm like, okay, I'm not a therapist, but I go to therapy enough to know I don't know if that's a good idea,
No,
Tiffany.
no, and again, as you said, to each his own. But there's so much I think that could happen for her or for anyone who may still be in environments where they feel like, I have to stay here. There's so much beauty in being able to transplant and move to a different like it just feels different. Even moving from Toronto to Edmonton,
Mhm.
completely just different. Even moving from Toronto to Edmonton, just like a completely different atmosphere. So environmental changes, they do help in our psychological and emotional.
Mhm. So even when you said about was it negative resilience you said or like positive
Healthy
healthy
resilience.
resilience? There we go.
Mhm.
That makes me think about when I started my healing journey. I didn't see myself as resilient. I
Mhm.
actually, to me, it was just like, you got to do what you got to do, right? I
Yep.
never saw myself as resilient. And I was
Hmm.
speaking on someone else's podcast during the pandemic, and I was like, sharing parts of my story. I started getting emotional. They're crying. And then by the end of that episode, when they were like, wow, you are so resilient. And I was like, am I though? And like, this is
What does that
pre-therapy.
mean?
But I started to break things down. And after recording that podcast episode with them, I started to look at my childhood, the things
Mhm.
that I was numb to. Like, I grew up in government
Mhm.
housing around certain things, saw people die in front of me, like the things that happened, but it was like I was numb to that because that was
Yeah.
my normal.
Yeah.
So that wasn't necessarily healthy.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
when I started therapy, I started to understand healthy resilience.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
resilient me pre-pandemic, that was not healthy. That was Mikini
Mm.
on like survival mode. That
Yeah.
was, we gotta get through this.
We just gotta get stuff done. Things gotta get done, and we just gotta
Yeah,
do what we gotta do. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 So I think it's important that you mentioned healthy resilience because I think one, when people see someone else as resilient,
Hmm.
their perception of that resilience, they may not understand that that person, that may not necessarily be healthy
Yeah.
resilience.
Yeah.
And two, I know like the last maybe year or so, I've been seeing a lot of people online talk about like they don't want to be seen as resilient, all these different things. They have a
Yeah.
negative perspective of the
Of
word.
resilience. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I have it tattooed on me. It says resilience is my superpower. I have that
Mhm.
was a part of my brand at one point, like hence, teacup merch, all that stuff. but and I still feel like that's my superpower. It went from unhealthy resilience to
Mhm.
now a healthy resilience.
So wait, I have a question now. So I have to ask a question. So pre-pandemic, when you said you didn't recognize yourself as resilience, but that was a part of your branding?
No, that became a part of my branding after.
After. Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay, 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 okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
That's
started
powerful.
making those things after. It was
Yeah,
after that episode.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. Isn't it so funny how like being in conversation and in community. And that's what I think that even on our healing journey, that the aspect of community is so important because I know for myself, whether it's this
Mhm.
conversation or being in like, our closest people or our closest friends or whatever the case may be, that they're able to speak into you in a way that is so powerful. I feel like a part of my healing journey has been the conversations and the spaces that I've been in with
Mhm.
friends because they've been able to see things speaking to me, different things like that that I didn't see in myself. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Even if
Mhm.
I'm speaking to myself or about myself in a certain way, they're just like, just that's not it, like checking me.
Yes.
So I love that even in that conversation, in that vulnerable moment, that you were able to walk away with a seed to be planted in your healing journey. I love that. That's
Thank you. Thank
yeah.
you.
You're
So I
welcome.
I know that community is a part of our healing. And
Hmm.
what are some other tools that you've used as a part of
Hmm.
your healing journey?
Yeah, for sure. So therapy, the therapist needs a therapist.
Yep. Yep.
So at first, I was seeing my therapist bi-weekly because the weekly thing would have been too much for me. I couldn't do it. So I was seeing my therapist bi-weekly, loved her, amazing. So therapist, reading, I read a lot.
Mhm.
I I read a lot. I don't get to read as much because I have a kid now, but I'm an avid reader, and that's
Mhm.
been a big thing for me. So reading. So okay, here's the thing. As a therapist with my own private practice, there are 5 pillars of soul care. Okay, so there's spiritual care, body care, mindfulness, self-love and acceptance, and community. Okay.
Mhm.
So those are the 5 pillars that I use when I'm working with clients, and I've developed a framework and things like that, and our practice uses that. However, that framework came from my own personal
Mm.
experience, right?
Mhm.
So I would say my healing journey was rooted in those 5 areas. So spiritual care, as a believer, I'm really big on spiritual community, reading my Bible, praying, things like that, mindfulness. I'm, as I said, I'm a big reader, quiet time, journaling, body care is really important for me. Trigger warning, because as a child, I was abused. And so being able to take care of my body, and nurture my body is like when I don't take care of my body, it shows. I can
Mhm.
feel it. I'm not myself, different things like that. And I'm glad that I was able to do that even before I got pregnant.
Mhm.
Pregnancy can be triggering in the
Mhm.
body, right?
Mhm.
So body self-love and acceptance, being able to really grow in loving who I am and
Mhm.
accepting me for me, and that community piece. So that's how I navigated through.
I love all of it. Like all the pillars, all the steps. I am there with you. I love it. I love it. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
What are some actually, I
Hmm.
know that there are people that either don't have access to therapy
Hmm.
or don't believe in therapy because they really don't understand what it is.
Yeah, yeah.
From a therapist perspective, what advice would you give to a woman listening, in terms of starting therapy? And
Mm.
then two, like if they can't afford sessions on their own, what are some things they can do?
Yeah, no, for sure. That's good. For somebody who's starting therapy, so I start with this. I have worked with individuals and probably still do work with people who they're like in therapy in secret. Like their family doesn't know, maybe one or two of their friends know, because there's still such a stigma
Mm,
around therapy and mental health and so forth, especially in the Black community and
mhm,
especially in the Black Caribbean community,
mhm,
right? There's still that stigma. And so I think what I would want to do in this moment is validate that it's okay to go to therapy. And I know people hear that all the time, but there's a sense of relief, I think, when people hear it,
mhm.
right? And therapy is not just for intervention, but it's also for prevention, right?
Right.
So working through navigating through things. And therapy, I believe, is a almost like a mirror. It helps you to see yourself in a different way. My clients love to say, wow, Jess, that's a really good question. I'm like, that's why we here. Or
Yeah,
Jess, why you gotta come with that deep question? That's why we're here.
that's
Let's
purpose.
that's the purpose. Let's
Yeah.
work the muscle, right? And I think it's realizing that everybody has mental health. Just how everybody has physical health, everybody has mental health. And there's a difference between mental health and a mental illness, right?
Mhm,
So just like we go to the doctor, which we should for our routine checkups and physicals and different things like that, that's what therapy is like. It's going to get your mind checkup and check in on your emotional health and so forth. And so it's almost like taking down the barbed wire from
mhm,
therapy. Like
mhm.
it's not this like scary thing. Is it hard? Sorry. Is it hard? Yes, it is hard. It's not an easy thing. And that's something that's big for me as a therapist because there's the romanticization of therapy now,
Mhm,
as everybody's going.
mhm,
So it's not going to be an easy process. But I say think of it as going to the gym, it's working on muscle,
mhm,
right? In terms of the tools piece, honestly, all of those five pillars that I just mentioned, you can activate those and use those in your life. So, spiritual care, that will look different for different people, whatever spirituality looks like for you. Body care, going to the gym, it literally has so many benefits.
mhm.
Like it helps with your cortisol levels, it helps with stress management, helps with so many different things. Going to your bed, going to sleep,
Yep.
go to your bed. Like staying up till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and then you have work at 7. We're not doing that anymore because when you don't get enough sleep, then that affects your mental and emotional health, right?
Yes.
Eating right, journaling, those different things. So right now I don't see my therapist every bi-weekly. I see her monthly.
Mhm,
And I'm seeing her monthly currently because there's a lot of moving pieces. But originally I was seeing her once per quarter, and that is with me doing all of those different things on a day-to-day basis in my life.
mhm. Thank
Yeah,
you.
hopefully that made sense.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. That made
Yeah,
so much sense.
yeah.
There was something you said there that I wanted to ask about, and now I totally forgot. Um, I'm sure it'll come to me later.
Hmm.
Um, but I wanted to, I guess, speak to, I guess how do I say this? Like, okay, actually, before I go there,
You
so
remember?
I had, I had, a nurse on the podcast,
Hmm.
maybe a couple years ago, actually. And she was talking about going to therapy in the Black community because
Hmm.
you and I know one, anytime you talk about mental health issues, Black community, there's that stigma, especially in the Caribbean community. There's a
Hmm.
very negative stigma. Anyone with any mental health issues is basically written off. They say you're mad, you've gone crazy,
Yeah,
all these
yeah,
things. So like they don't have the knowledge and wisdom of the different, I guess, um, mental health struggles and things
yeah,
that people deal with.
yeah.
Um, so she was talking about therapy is like an oil change for your car, right?
That's good.
So the regular maintenance, not
Yeah,
like you said, nothing has to be wrong.
yep,
It's the regular maintenance.
yeah.
And even when I started going to therapy, and I was like, okay, I when I started going to therapy, I wanted to heal all the major traumas, all the those that
Mm-hmm.
was my intention. And
Mm-hmm.
going every week, it's actually just helping me get through the week. like,
Man.
you know, like, like I think I said to you, I don't remember if we were recording it or not, but I said to you at the beginning, like I have 3 adult children, heavily dependent that I am trying to wean off of me. I have
Mm,
like 2 bonus sons, but then
mhm.
on my kids' side, like stepchildren that I've had for how many years,
Yeah.
plus, my kids' friends lean on me. They're calling me, they're FaceTiming me for advice. There's like
Mm.
so it's like to help me stay sane throughout the week,
Yeah.
to help
Yeah.
me deal with everyone else's emotional dumping, to help
Yeah.
me remember to set my boundaries, to help me remember
Yeah.
to prioritize self-care. Like
Yeah.
going every week is not like because there's a huge crisis.
Yeah.
It's just to help me be accountable.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's your space too, right? I think that is the thing. Because literally, if you look at it in the grand scheme of things, it's literally only 4 hours a month.
Yeah.
Literally, right?
Exactly.
It's because you go weekly, right? So it's
Yeah.
4 hours a month. So it's like these 4 hours a month, in addition to whatever else you do, is for me,
Yeah.
right? And I think it's really looking at it in that way that this space is for me. I do so much for everyone else. I pour out in so many different ways. And so this space is for me. And I
Mhm.
think if we begin to own that space as this space is for me and what I need, because that's what your therapist is there for, right? They're there to hold space for you and to listen to you and to support you, and to challenge you and all of those different types of things, right? And so it's like when you walk away, I love that analogy of it being like an oil. Your car is running different,
Yeah. 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 Right?
right?
It's
It's being
smoother.
maintained. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
smoother,
Yeah.
right? And if there was any noises that it was making or any of those things, it has been shifted,
Yes.
right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, what advice would you give to a woman listening right now that doesn't believe that there is life after their trauma, that they are
Mm,
sitting in their hurt, they're repeating all their trauma responses, is their belief about the beauty that can happen if they do the deep healing work?
mhm. I think the big part of it has to do with the belief. That's the word that you said that really stood out. It's the belief, it's our core beliefs.
Hmm.
And being able to challenge our core beliefs, right? So, my core belief is telling me that there's no life after trauma, maybe because as a child, I've been told that this is all there is, or I'm never going to amount to anything, I'm not beautiful, all of the different words and nuances that come with traumatic experiences, right? And even if no one said it to us, sometimes we live in a space of the things that weren't said to us,
Hmm.
right? So sometimes we live in that space. And so and that's what therapy does, right? So if you need to take that step, even let's book a few sessions, let's book a few sessions to see what it looks like. It, we help you to reframe, right? That aspect and really to challenge those core beliefs and to know there is certainly life after trauma. What you see is not what it is, right? So, let me change that. It's not all there is,
Right.
right? Because your experiences are 100% real. And I think sometimes people think that because I've been triggered or because I'm navigating through something, that I'm not healing,
Hmm.
right? And that's not true,
Right.
right? It's all about your response. So now when people ask me, just how are you doing? I'm well. What does that mean? It means that everything around me may not be going perfect, but how is my response, right?
Right.
And then what therapy does is it helps us to shift our response. So one of my clients said this to me the other day. They said, "You know what? Just like nothing around me is changing, but I'm changing." And I'm like, that is the power of
Yeah.
therapy,
Yes.
right? That is the power of reframing. That is the power of challenging our core beliefs. So if you believe that there is no life after trauma, how then can you take that step to lean into healthy community or to reach out to a therapist for there to be somebody to hold space for you to show you a different perspective? So
Hmm.
that would be my advice to anyone who has that thought pattern or that.
I love it. I love it. Um, Before we go to the final segment of the show, I want you to
Yeah,
tell
for
people
sure.
where they could stay connected with you, where they can learn more from you and about you.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm an Instagram girly. I'm trying to be a TikTok girl, and I just cannot. Like, I just, are you on TikTok, Makini? I,
I A friend of mine challenged me about a month ago because she's like,
yeah.
you're missing out because you're not utilizing your TikTok. So she's been challenging me to drop a video a day, but you know me, I batch
Okay.
record.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Okay. So I'm trying. So, anyways, I am on Instagram, and my Instagram name is I am She Speaks Truth. I like threads too, so you can find me on threads. I really like threads.
me too.
I really like
It's
threads.
a healthier platform, I find.
It is. It's just everybody's nice on there. And then I'm going to try TikTok again. But I really live and reside on Instagram. And of course, you can find me on my website, the Soul Care Counselor.
Perfect, perfect. I will definitely
Mhm.
have all the links in the detailed section so they could just click and connect with you directly.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So the final segment, it's kind of like a rapid fire. Sometimes it goes a little
Ooh.
slow because I'm a bit of a rule breaker, but typically you can answer the questions with one word or one sentence.
Okay.
But I don't like to hold anyone into a box. I'm
Okay.
claustrophobic. I don't like to be put into a box either. So if you feel the need to expand, you're
Okay.
more than welcome to do so. Okay.
Okay. I knowing me probably.
Okay. So because you said you like to read, and I do as
Mhm.
well, I try to read 2 books a month. My first question to you is name a book that has changed or greatly impacted your life.
Ma'am, there's so many. Oh my God. I just looked over at my bookshelf. Woo! Okay. Oh my. Oh my. Okay. I'm going to give two. And this is at the beginning of my healing journey. See, I'm expanding already. Wholeness by Torrey Roberts. I read it like
Mm,
3 times. So good. And oh no, 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 no. Don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. Don't Settle for Safe by Sarah Jakes.
okay.
I
I'm
read
writing
that.
both of those down. Oh, so
I
husband and
read
wife.
Yeah. And I think I read one and then I read the other and then I decided to read them together. So good. Don't Settle for Safe. I read it maybe 4 times. So
I'm
good.
writing it down.
So good.
Girl,
Yeah.
I have my Goodreads list. Like I add like a book a day. I'm like I can't read that many.
I literally have about 20 books at my book side. And my husband's like, just, what are we doing? I'm like, just mind your business.
Yeah, right? Mind your business.
Mind your business.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Um, if you could create one law that everyone in
Mhm.
the world had to live by, what would that be?
Wow, if I could create one law that everybody has to live by, be kind.
Mm,
Be kind because you just never know what somebody is going through. Um, be kind. Yeah,
yeah,
that would be my thing. Be kind. Just show kindness. Be
I
kind.
love it.
Yeah.
I I went for a brunch meeting with someone yesterday that I have
Hmm.
admired for years, and I
Hmm.
feel honored to now be someone that she sees as a friend. And we were talking about that because the last 5 years or so, we have both had some traumatic experiences, but we've both still showed up, so people have no idea what
Yeah.
is happening behind closed
Yeah.
doors. And I said, what's shifted for me in the last 5 years is that because I know, you never know what someone is going through. And I
Yeah.
know people will see me online or see me somewhere and assume that life is
Mhm.
perfect because
Yeah.
that is what I try to focus on for me
Yeah. Yeah.
as much as I share the bad side. So their perception of my life or my experiences or how I feel is very different from the actual fact. And
Yeah.
I find it very few people will actually ask me how I am feeling or how I'm doing.
Mm.
When I'm asking them, their response after they say how they are is, I don't even to ask how you're doing. I can see you're doing well. Like
Yeah.
there's some,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I know that everyone, if you are a human being,
Yeah.
or you're experiencing something like
Yeah.
we all have struggles. We are
Yeah.
not without struggle. So
Yeah.
it's important to not make assumptions and to just be kind to everyone, especially when someone
Mhm.
is being a jerk to me. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're hurting right now. You're dealing with
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make this about me.
Yeah.
Like that.
I've genuinely asked people, "Are you having a bad day?"
Mhm.
Like, and I think they feel like I'm being like sarcastic, but I wasn't. I was like, no, genuinely, because you seem like you're having a bad day,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So I really try my best to just be kind to people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Totally sidetrack. Quick 2 second story. So, back in like, maybe it was like early, oh goodness. I'm trying to remember if it was before or after my sister passed. But so my brother used to do concerts and events in Toronto. And my
Mhm.
sister and I, because he trusted us financially, we always used to help him with that side of things, whether it be working the door, collecting money, all those things. So anyway, this is when the government still existed downtown Toronto, and we're having
Okay.
a party there, and I'm doing the door, and I'm just observing how security is interacting with people, people they've never met
Mhm.
before. They're being rude to. They're like, so there's this one dude, and uh, like he was just angry with everybody. And then he went to lean on the glass of where I'm like collecting money from people. And I tapped on the glass and I said to him, "Do you need a hug?"
Fuck's sake.
So he looked at me, and at first you could tell like in his head he was like, "What the?" And
Yeah.
then he cocked his head sideways and saw that I was really smiling at him and that I was genuine. And he's like, "Yeah, I do." And I
Mm.
came around the booth and I gave him a hug and I was like, "You seem like you're having a bad day. Like,
Oh,
I just felt like you needed a hug." And can I tell you,
yeah.
he was jokes for the rest of the night.
But the thing is, it's so funny because like hugs literally have like an effect on our nervous system, right? So homeboy probably needs to be regulated of
Yeah.
some sort. Yeah. So that
Yeah.
hug probably shifted something for him.
Yeah.
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 That's so sweet. Oh, I love that.
Okay. What's your most repeated thought that you have in a day?
Man. Um, clearly, because I say that a lot, man. Um, oh man. I think for me it's like getting everything done.
Mhm.
It's like about my schedule and my productivity, and then everything done for when my kid gets home. So I think it's about that. It's just like, am I getting everything that I need to get done?
Mhm.
Yeah, and then with that comes my secondary thoughts. Am I doing enough? Am I capitalizing enough? Am I enough? I would say maybe enough is
Mm,
probably the word. Yeah,
mm,
that's
mm.
good. Well, I should
Yeah.
unpack that with my therapist.
Yeah.
Enough.
Yes, girl.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, what would the little version of you be most proud of you for today?
Her resilience.
Mm,
Yeah, her resilience. We talk about that healthy resilience. That's one thing about me. I'm gonna get back up. I'm
mhm,
going to get back up. Before it was like I just have to get back up because life is moving. But
mhm,
now I'm gonna get back up in that healthy resilience.
mhm,
And I have a daughter now.
mm.
So, and when she first born, she looked just like her daddy, but now she looks like me. Just kidding. And so I see myself in her, like, and I remember when I was having her, man, you can have me on another episode to talk about motherhood and talk about
Mm,
having a daughter and how that triggers things.
mm,
Anyways, and I remember when I was having her, and the Lord said to me, just she's going to be a version of you without the trauma.
mm,
And I look at her and I'm like, you are so free, and you are so like, she literally, like, she fills a room. She's 11 months, but she fills a room. She captivates attention. It's beautiful.
oh, I
So,
love that.
yeah. So I would
I
say that
love
resilience. Yeah.
that. Listen, I am definitely going to take you up on having a part two talking about that because listen, I
Yeah.
love talking to therapists.
I love the deep conversations.
Yeah, because it touches the soul. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we need to have a part 2, and I want to talk about that because I don't think we've talked about it on the podcast. Talking about the mother wounds and having a child and how that affects your parenting. Yeah, please.
Mhm. Yeah, we can. Yeah. What the
Okay.
gender reveal, when I found out I was having a girl, I was excited, and the next day I bawled.
Mm.
So let that be the sleeper into the next one.
Yes. Okay. So we are having a part 2. I'm holding you accountable to that. We're having a part 2. Honestly, thank you so much, Jessica, for not only sharing your story with us, but sharing your expertise. Thank you for co-creating this space, this experience with me. I truly, truly appreciate you. And like I said, I love getting to know people on a deeper level that I've known for years. So
Yeah.
I'm grateful that you said yes. And I love watching how you've evolved from, because I know it's probably been over 10 years since we've been connected on social, but
Yeah.
I love watching you evolve, and I celebrate you, and I cannot wait to watch your daughter grow and thrive.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. You've always been somebody who I've admired. I actually remember I met you at, it was a hair show,
Mm-hmm.
I think,
That means,
and you,
yep.
yeah, and you did a talk on the walk in my stilettos. I actually met you and Stacey Ann
Mm-hmm.
at the same time. And I was like, wow, these women are just amazing. And it's funny how, we've evolved into building some type of relationship and things like
Mm-hmm.
that, whether on social or when we see each other or whatever. So yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's an absolute honor. Thank you again.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.
And to all you healers out there, until next time, don't forget to rate the show and leave us a review on Apple Podcast. And I honestly want to thank each and every one of you that has given us the honor of your ear and come to listen each week to help the show rank globally in the top 1.5% of most popular podcasts out there. Woo, girl, every time I say it, I'm like, really?
Yes, absolutely.
There are over 3 million podcasts out there. Okay. All right. Okay. But I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you to share this episode with 5 people that you think would receive value from hearing today's episode. You can tag Jessica at I Am She Speaks Truth. You can tag myself at The Real McKinney Smith. A healthy community is a healing community, and a healing community is full of hope because it has seen its own people weather, survive, and thrive. So let's continue to heal her.